Hey, what's happening, guys? Welcome to the channel. As always, this is Living in Alberta. Today, we're going to venture out into rural Alberta. Let's take a look at the pros and the cons of living in Ponoka, Alberta, Canada. Yo, what's happening? My name is Kyle. Welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. On this channel, we break down everything when it comes to moving to or living in Alberta. So if you do want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit the subscribe button and you want to click that notification bell so you are notified every single week when a new video comes out. And if you would like any help with real estate needs, I am a licensed realtor in the province. You can use this information popping up on the screen right now. Get a hold of me any way you know how. All right, with that being said, let's do it. All right, guys, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about Ponoka, Alberta today. Let's kind of start off by talking about where it is on a map. We'll throw up a map animation right now. Ponoka is about 40 to 45 minutes north of Red Deer off Highway 2, not very far off Highway 2 anyways. So I get asked all the time, what are some other options when living in central Alberta? There's the really popular ones if you don't want to live in the city, if you don't want to live in Red Deer, like Lacombe, Blackfall, Sylvan Lake. But Ponoka is also a pretty great option if you are wanting to live in the Red Deer area and still be within commuting distance. So I guess that kind of brings me to my first pro of living in Ponoka is that it still is a great centralized location. So you are right off Highway 2. So you do have very easy access if you want to rip into Red Deer for whatever it is that you need, or if you are choosing to work in Red Deer still, it's still a fairly easy commute. In my opinion, I think this is about as far away as I would go if I am choosing to work in Red Deer. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret.
What is your secret?
I actually kind of recently moved to Ponoka. My mother-in-law, she gave us 11 acres of land, so we moved here east of Ponoka. My wife is actually from here, so we ended up building an acreage out here. So as you all know, I worked for the Red Deer Fire Department up until last year in September. I actually quit on September 11th, which is kind of a weird day to quit the fire department. I didn't plan that or didn't even realize that I was doing that. But for 3 or 4 years, I commuted every day. We did a 4-on 4-off rotation in the city on the fire department. I commuted 4 days there, 4 days back, 40 to 45 minute drive. Kind of a nice drive in the morning. You have your coffee. By the time your coffee's done, you're awake, you're kind of ready to go. And if you do have children, say you're choosing to live in the Ponoka area, I know there's been a lot of people moving out here lately because you are able to find some beautiful acreages in Ponoka County for a really, really good price. So a lot of people from out of province are choosing to live in this area. So if you do potentially have children who are wanting to go to Red Deer College, the nice thing about Red Deer College is that it is right off Highway 2, so you do not even have to go into the city. As soon as you exit off 32nd Street, your first right, there's the college right there. So it is a fairly easy trip from Ponoka. You're kind of in the middle between Red Deer and Edmonton. You're a little closer to Red Deer than you are to Edmonton. You're about an hour away. Still about an hour away drive from Edmonton, an hour away drive. Does that make sense? I know there is some people who do make the trek from Ponoka to Edmonton because they're choosing to work there. But in my opinion, I would live a little bit closer to the big city if that's where I was going to be working and commuting to all the time. People, they got to take into consideration the winter driving here in Alberta. It does get pretty shitty and pretty dicey depending on where you're coming from. I know a lot of people in the Greater Toronto area or the Vancouver area, they're always telling me, oh, that's okay, I commute 2 hours back and forth from work every day already. But you're probably not driving on Alberta highways and experiencing the Alberta winter. So it's definitely something you want to consider. So a great central location, very easy access to Highway 2. Again, this is about as far away as I would go if I was choosing to still want to be in the Red Deer area and work in Red Deer. Again, 40 to 45 minutes away from Red Deer City. All right, let's move into the next pro of living in Ponoka. And this is kind of a fun one. And this is actually taking place right now, but Ponoka is known as cowboy land. This is where you're gonna find some old hardcore cowboys, and you're also gonna find the Ponoka Stampede. And yes, it is much better than the Calgary Stampede. I was actually out getting footage for this video, and I was walking around the trails and I run into a lady, and she said that she's been coming to the Ponoka Stampede for 30 years. She's from Calgary, and every time the Stampede rolls around in Calgary, she actually gets out of town. Now the Ponoka Stampede, it is a ton of fun. It's a much more kind of an intimate experience compared to the Calgary Stampede. You're a little more immersed, I guess you could say. You're super close to the action. You're right up there. You can kind of just feel what's going on in the arena. And you don't have to deal with the crazy amounts of traffic that you would within the Calgary Stampede. And it's funny, once the Ponoka Stampede rolls around, any open green space around the Ponoka Stampede arena just gets filled with campers. So it's just a sea of RVs and trailers. And because of COVID, there has not been a Stampede for the last 2 years. And this is a huge boost for the economy here in Ponoka. It brings about 80 to 100,000 people to this small town. Ponoka only has about 7,500 people. So you can imagine over the last couple of years, these small businesses or any businesses within the town, that is a huge source of revenue that they were missing out because of COVID. But it's back. It's going on right now. The wife's actually there right now. She rides slack. She volunteers for the Stampede. So if you are in the area or if you're just moved to Ponoka, make sure you head down and check out the Stampede. It is a really cool experience. Okay, let's talk about something else that's really cool about Ponoka. And not a lot of people realize this, but there is a world-class mental health and brain injury hospital right here in the town of Ponoka called Centennial Center. So again, this is a world-class facility. People come from all over the country to either get help here, or this is also a huge source of employment here in Central Alberta. It employs a ton of people. So maybe you moved here from out of province, or you're in the process of moving here, or you're looking to work in this industry. This is a massive source of employment here in Central Alberta. And it really is a beautiful place, and we'll throw up some drone footage so you can have a look at it. But I don't know if you guys have ever watched Shutter Island with Leo DiCaprio. Kind of reminds me of that. The grounds are beautiful. There's tons of like green spaces, walking trails, these cool, really old buildings. So an amazing hospital that really does some awesome work and helps a lot of people. And it's right here in the town of Ponoka, and a massive source of employment here in Central Alberta. Now let's talk about a few more things just to kind of close out the pros of living in Ponoka, Alberta. Just some things that are good for you guys to know. Now, sometimes a lot of these smaller towns, they may or may not have a hospital, like Sylvan Lake. Again, I can't wrap my head around that one. But Ponoka does have a hospital. It does have an emergency department. So that's really good on a town of 7,500 people. That's awesome. No matter what age your children are, it's got all the appropriate schools and high schools. I know, like, for example, if you're living in Sylvan Lake, there is no Catholic school. If you're living in Blackfalds, they don't have a high school. So a lot of the kids are bused to Lacombe. Your children have everything they need as far as schooling right here in Ponoka. So another bonus. And let's just kind of talk about the geography and maybe the beauty of Ponoka. Now, it's kind of built right in the middle of the prairie, so you wouldn't expect much from it. But there is some really cool things with Ponoka. They do have some beautiful walking trails. We'll throw up some drone footage as always so you can see what I'm talking about. A lot of really old growth trees. Here's a really cool shot of me driving down this street with a lot of the old trees hanging over top. I think it's a really cool shot. So you have lots of beautiful walking trails, parks, and different things within the town. It's not just a boring prairie city in the middle of nowhere. It actually does have some beauty and some character to it. All right, let's talk about some of the cons of living in Ponoka now. Again, you're in a small town in rural Alberta, 7,500 people. There's obviously not going to be a lot of shopping here. Sometimes you can get lucky in smaller towns. For example, Olds, it's a smaller town, but it has Canadian Tire, Walmart, Home Depot, all of the big box stores. In Ponoka, you have 0 big box stores.
Are you serious?
Deadly serious!
This is totally unacceptable.
So you're going to have 2 grocery stores. There's No Frills and a place called Hammy's. You have 2 hardware stores, and that's about it.
Is that it?
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
There's obviously going to be local stores here. There's a fantastic health food store here. There's some clothing stores like the Gypsy Boutique or the Twisted Label. But Not a ton of great shopping here, not a lot of grocery stores, no big box stores whatsoever to speak of. So you will be having to head into Red Deer for any types of that kind of shopping. Now this brings me to the next con of living in Ponoka, and this one kind of frustrates me. I maybe a bit of a food snob. I like some good food. I'm kind of one of those guys who likes to eat, organic foods and yeah, whatever. Let's not talk about it.
Are you sure?
And I know I'm gonna ruffle some feathers on this one, but there is not a lot, in my opinion, great restaurants here. So I think there's 4 or 5 restaurants. I mean, they do the trick. I think, 80% of the people would say that they're just fine. But if you really like some fine dining, or you're a food snob like me, in my opinion, the restaurants here in Ponoka are pretty lacking.
Oh my God, I just got a mental picture!
I know if we are planning a night out, we really make the effort to drive into Red Deer and go somewhere where we really want to eat. If we are in a rush, or not in a rush, but we don't want to drive too far, we make Ponoka work. But most of the time, the family and I, we're heading in Red Deer for supper. And of course, that brings me into the next one here. Just like every small town, there is no nightlife here. Zero. There is no nightclubs. You can get some karaoke going on at the Hitchin Post. They do have an awesome brewery here called Siding 14. Very, very popular here in Central Alberta. But again, zero nightclubs.
But look around, it's boring here.
You can head to the old hotel bar. I think it's called the Royal. I've never been there before, but you guys know how old hotel bars can be. They do have a movie theater here, which is pretty cool. I love that. The kids and I go there all the time. But if you are thinking of living in a smaller town in Central Alberta and you do want maybe a little bit more nightlife, Ponoka is not going to be the place for you. You may want to consider Sylvan Lake or even Black Falls, because it is a lot closer to Red Deer and you have easier access to the nightlife. So that's pretty much it for the cons, guys. It's pretty typical small town stuff. It's very, very quiet here. Not a lot of shopping, not a lot of amenities, but it still has, a couple of grocery stores. It still does have restaurants. Again, the restaurants, in my opinion, are a little bit lacking. We're always heading into Red Deer if we do want to go out for supper. And of course, just like most small towns, although some of them you do get lucky, there is no nightlife here. It does have a little bit of an older feel to it, this community. But with all that being said, the people here are super, super friendly. There's a lot of good things going on with the town.
I want to live here forever.
No one really gives a shit what you do out here as long as you're a good person and mind your own business. So if you are in the move or thinking of moving to Central Alberta, Ponoka is still a really great option. It's still really close to the big city, so something that really should be on your radar. Alright guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell. I would really, really, really appreciate it. And if you would like any help with your real estate needs, use this info, guys, popping up on the screen. Get a hold of me any way you know how. Would love to hear from you. Alright guys, I will see you next week. Cheers.